Freddy Krueger is arguably one of the most recognizable horror icons. That ripped red and green sweatshirt, dirtied and beaten up old hat, burned face, and the legendary finger knives have ensured he stays in everyone's nightmares since 1984. Krueger has been haunting your dreams for almost 40 years, and while we haven't seen a new movie since the poorly received remake, well, we figured we would give you our list of the top 5 best Nightmare on Elm Street films. Of the films in the franchise, Freddy vs. Jason is a weird one. Arriving before the rise of other cinematic universes, Freddy vs. Jason saw Freddy Krueger battle Jason Voorhees in an absolutely wild crossover film. The best part is, it's campy as all hell. Freddy vs. Jason knows exactly what it is and what it wants to accomplish. A fun and silly battle between two legends. Sure, there's a subplot with teenagers, but who cares? They are simply there to be killed as these two duke it out. Freddy vs. Jason is a guilty pleasure film that should be on your top 5. Freddy's Revenge was unique in that it was a slow burn coming of age horror film. Freddy isn't actually super present in it until the end, as the majority of the movie is all about him slowly regaining power after the events in the first film. Freddy's Revenge has a strong LGBTQ plot to it that was just subtle enough to pass in the 80s, but it is absolutely what makes it such a strong entry in the franchise. It also has some of the most memorable imagery. Remember Freddy with fire behind him, teens at a party terrified as he yells, "You are all my children now." Absolutely iconic. The first time I saw this film, I was a preteen and I hated it. Why are all the actors playing themselves? If Freddy is fake, why does he exist in the real world? I rewatched it as the film buff I am now and grew a huge appreciation for the meta style director Wes Craven took with this final entry in the main Nightmare saga. Actress Heather Langenkamp plays herself years after her last appearance. Craven has an idea for a new Nightmare film that ultimately brings Freddy out of the imagination and into the real world. Many fans applaud this entry for its zany plot that actually plays a bit on your psyche. What happens when you mix the Avengers with a fun, scary horror flick? Dream Warriors is what you get. The third entry in the franchise saw Nancy return to help a bunch of young teens in a psychiatric hospital that all suffer the same thing: vivid nightmares and loss of sleep. Freddy preys upon the fears and weaknesses of these teens while Nancy works to give them the power to defeat him. Dream Warriors has some of the best and most inventive kills in the franchise, and a fun as hell third act that has you rooting for more. Naturally, we save the best for last. This franchise would not exist without the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Released in 1984, the film is notorious for being a movie nobody wanted. Wes Craven shopped the film all over before New Line finally took it, but gave him a meager budget and actually cut funding halfway through. Craven then paid for the rest of production out of his own pocket using guerrilla filmmaking tactics. Nightmare on Elm Street was also focused far more on scares than comedy, unlike later entries. Freddy wasn't the wisecracking pop icon we know today. He was downright terrifying. The mix of practical effects and fantastic dream sequences make this not only the best in the franchise, but one of the best horror films ever made. What's your favorite Nightmare on Elm Street film? Let us know in the comments down below, and as always, be sure to like and subscribe for more horror content like this one right here on We Got This Covered.